Welcome to another edition of Q&A with Breaking Bank. This one is on what to do with the trust documents of the bank. Boy, I've addressed this a lot of times, but too many times. I'm always telling people what to do. I should make a straight up video. I've been too convoluted in the past, maybe. Send your questions. This is one I'm going to answer. Send them to contact@libertyaid.org. We're at libertyaid.org. Okay. I'm going to go through this. Hey, Jack, I have a few questions that I had while going through the process and watching your videos. Okay, number one, getting trust notarized at the bank. I mean, I could read. Let's read it. I already got the trust notarized previously when going to another bank. Was there a specific reason for getting it notarized at the bank where the account is set up versus getting it notarized at another location? Is it because when done at the bank it's done free of charge? Yes. Is there any downside to anything to take into account if bringing previous notarized documents to a bank? No, that's fine. You can be notarized anywhere, but the one little thing is if they notarize them there, puts a bank employee on the hook for agreement that your trust is, just fine. So that's helpful to have in your corner is notarized at a bank, but it may never come up. I've never seen it come up. And so it really doesn't matter, no. And so, in fact, these trusts are so good, so powerful that I've seen some banks be like, you have to have it notarized, elsewhere we can't do it yet. So, no, it's great. In fact, some people have to. So, good question there. Making copies. He has a multi-part bunch of questions too, which I'm going to go through. Okay. I'm going to keep reading through them. Making 4 copies. Okay. There are 2 trusts actually in the trust package. One is, they're both private trusts. One has the information removed that says it must operate in the private and not operate in commerce. And so one has an EIN and one has in it that's prohibited basically to operate in commerce, i.e. have an EIN. They're 2 different trusts. I make 2 originals of I make 2 originals of every document I make, that I'm going to work with, that I'm going to operate, and so on, because you don't want to lose one. It happens. So that's why an original for each, so that's 2 original. The private one with no EIN is kind of like your jurisdictional stop. Sorry. your backstop. So if they say whatever to the human, well, that's just a business I operate over there. With that EIN, I'm signed with God in the private. No EIN. You have no jurisdiction over me. See, that's never come up either. But it's never come up because it exists. Your contract with God is in place privately with God, and God helps you. So that's really what he wants. The thing is, though, we do have to have a bank account, while we're down here, right, with all this junk around us here. So that one gets an EIN and operates in public. So that's the 4. You said 4 copies, but they are 4 originals. They are not 4 copies. I have never said make copies. 4 originals, not copies. Okay, 3. I went into a different bank, and one of the questions... Oh, this one's titled Success. Yay. I went to a different bank, and one of the questions the bank asked me was if there was a successor, and he means successor trustee. I looked on the Declaration of Trust and don't see a section for that. The bank said it didn't have to be on the Declaration of Trust, but rather for me to just name a successor so they can have it on their system. Is this okay? Or does the successor need to be written on the Declaration of Trust? No, it doesn't need to be written on the Declaration of Trust, just like they said. No, it doesn't. You're the trustee. You don't have to choose a successor. No. Like they said, it's just for their bank records to know who to contact in case the trustee dies. Like for trustees that for some trusts I'm involved with, there's more than one trustee. So they're like, oh, well, we don't need a successor. There are 2 trustees. So name a successor, add another trustee, choose another bank. Those are 3 options to overcome that. Okay. For beneficiaries, thanks, Jack, for creating a video on my last question about creator grantor. That's great. I'd love to have your questions. While watching that video, I noticed that around the 6-minute mark, you talk about the beneficiary and how they are chosen is decided in the trust, but you mention the names do not need to be decided in the declaration of trust. Correct. You also mention a successor trustee. We just talked about that, successor trustee. Can you provide more clarification on this portion? I did the successor trustee portion, so see, when we have a private trust, we like to keep as much information privately to ourselves. We don't want to tell our bankers everything. We want to tell them the least information about us possible, because, more information, they're not your friends, bankers. You just have to interact with them. So we try and give them the least amount of information. But if they require it, so what? We start with the least and we give them a little more if they need it. If you want to bank with them. Okay, excuse me. So this is about beneficiaries, because we already spoke about the successor trustees. So beneficiaries, in the trust it mentions how beneficiaries are chosen. But it doesn't name the beneficiaries. It's not the bank's information. They don't need to know. You can give it to them if you want to. But I feel a better spot to put people in than beneficiaries is trustee. Because no taxable events. They're just a new trustee at the bank account, or, they are trustees, so they can do anything a trustee can. So that's what I recommend. That way you don't have to disband in any way the trust. Okay. Thanks, Jack. Loving the videos. I've been reviewing them as well. Good. I mean, people have a lot of questions for me, and they get, caught up in this thing, that thing, and the other thing. But I put out a lot of videos out there. You may not agree with every little detail, and I'm not saying I'm perfect. I'm not God, and I do make small errors, but almost all of my information is proven and accurate. I'm not saying there aren't a few, I's that aren't dotted right or T's that aren't crossed right or whatever, but, you're going to find more truth on what I have on my videos than anywhere else, and it's useful. Financially useful, spiritually useful in every way. It's information that no one else has. Some people have small parts of the information, no one has it all together. It's the only place. Right here. That's it. Okay. So, what else? Great. Please keep the questions coming. I love to make these videos because it's like, okay, other people have these things on their mind. You know what I mean? Like me, I'm in it all the time, so I don't know what's the part they don't know, what's the part that they do know. I get lost over here because I'm just so in it all the time. So thank you for taking the time to ask your questions. I love taking the time to provide more clarity on this information. So working out great, and I look forward to the next questions and getting them out to you. Thank you so much for yours today. God bless your success.